Hey everybody, Mr. Paul here, and we're going to go over golden triads today. So if you're a student of mine already, you might be familiar with golden triads or something we've talked about during the lesson, but this is for reviews so you can kind of watch this and really get this idea in your head. Because if you get golden triads down, it's going to help you in the long run for sure. So first of all, what is a triad? That would be a fancy name for a 3-note chord, right? So if we're playing 3 notes at a time, that's a triad. Tri meaning 3, right? So that's a triad, that's a triad, that's a triad, that's a triad. We have a bunch of different triads that we can try out here. So with the golden triads, what we want to do is remember 7 of these triads. So before you get too deep into this, if you don't know how chords are made as far as the major third, minor third thing, I do have a video on that I'd recommend you watch first. Then I also have one on chord families that would also probably be helpful to watch before you really get into this. But nonetheless, we'll get into it anyways. So here's the idea. If you're a piano student, you should know your C major scale pretty well by now, right? If we talked chord families, we've kind of talked how each of these chords fits into this if we build a chord on each note, right? So golden triads is kind of like that, but what we want to figure out is how do we build a major chord off of each of these notes. And we're just going to go white notes, so we're not going to build a chord off of any black notes today. But if you get your golden triads down really well, that'll basically teach you all of your black note chords as well. So that's the bonus in it, right? So we already know that this chord here, C major, which we use from the very beginning in piano, it's major, right? Then if you remember anything about chord construction, we're going to skip 3 between C and E. Again, don't forget about your black notes. So that's 3, that's a major third. And then between E and G, we're gonna skip 2, and that is a minor third, right? So major chords are constructed of a major third, skip 3, then a minor third, skip 2. And if we apply this anywhere on the piano, we should get a major chord. So I'll just pick a random place. Let's go A flat. So I play A flat, I'm gonna skip 3 notes, skip these 3, land on the next note, so that I have 3 in between. So that's a major third. It sounds like a doorbell. And I'm gonna skip 2. So I'm skipping those 2. And I get skip 3, skip 2, or a major third plus a minor third. And boom, you get an A flat major chord or an A flat or a G sharp major chord, however you want to think of it. You're more likely to see it as A flat major there. So anyways, I'm kind of getting a little off track here, but that's good stuff to know before we really dive into golden triads. So if you already know that stuff, I'll put a time marker in the video and you can just skip right to this point. Okay, so golden triads, here's the deal. We got to construct a major chord off of C, D, E, F, G, A, and B. All right, so that's 7 chords that we got to figure out here. So we might know that C is already one of these. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to make a little chart here, or a table. I'm going to make a natural family. So that's a natural sign. Hopefully you know that. So I'm going to say C is a natural chord. It doesn't need any shenanigans or any sharps or flats or anything like that to make it major. It just is if we just play white keys, right? So we're going to consider C part of that family. Turns out there's 2 other chords that fit into this family. So I'll go ahead and speed run this here so you guys can kind of see what they are. It's F and G. Oops, sorry, F and G. There we go. I was looking at the camera, not my hands. So here's an F chord, and there's a G chord, right? So if we do the math on here, F also is 3 and 2. It just naturally fits that pattern. Then G is 3, then 2. So that also fits in there. All right, so we have C, F, and G, and we can experiment around, but these are the only 3 chords where if you start on a white key, the rest of the chord is white keys. You don't have to sharp or flat anything, and it just works out. And again, we're referring to major chords, specifically major chords right now, right? So a couple ways to remember this. I say they're cool, friendly guys, C, F, G. Cool, friendly guys. You don't gotta do anything. They're fine just the way they are, right? They don't need any sort of modification to make those major. So looking a little deeper into this, we might know already that, well, if we drop this middle note down a half step, we'll get a minor chord. So if you know C major, you could drop your middle note down a half step. Now we have 2 and 3, and it's C minor. So if that's true for C, that means it's true for F. There's F minor. That's true for G. G major, G minor. So it turns out it's just this middle note that we have to move, but we always keep our outer notes the same, right? So that's 3 out of the 7 chords that we need to know for golden triads. So the next family, we're gonna put a sharp in here. So there's 3 chords where if we start on a white note, we need to put a sharp in there somewhere. Turns out the sharp is always gonna be on our 3rd, AKA our middle note, right? So if I just play D and I make the snowman shape or the basic triad shape from D, it's actually minor. If you do the math, that's 2 and 3, that's minor. So to make a D major, I actually need to sharp the F to correct that order. Because again, I can't mess a D because it's a D chord, right? That's my root note. And then we need the 5th, and the 5th doesn't really tell us major or minor. So it turns out we need F sharp in the middle to make this a major chord. So there's 2 other chords in this series if we're working from white notes that need this to happen. E would be your next one, so we need G sharp. So again, if I just do the basic shape, E, G, B, I get 2 and 3, it's E minor. So I need to sharp this G in the middle to make it sound major, right? So E's the next one, and then A is the last one for this. So if I forget to sharp the C, I get A minor. If I sharp it, I get A major. So for the sharp family in the middle, they need a sharp to make them major, and specifically the middle note needs to be sharp, AKA our 3rd, right? So if you can think of a better analogy for this, any parents or older people watching this, great, because I don't think my kids get this one, but I always say DEA, that's a drug enforcement agency. And I'm like, you gotta be pretty sharp to work for those guys, right? Not a great analogy, I know. But anything to remind you that D, E, and A need to be sharp is good. So cool, friendly guys, you don't gotta change anything. It's all good. D, E, A, oh, you gotta be sharp. All right, this leaves 1 chord left over if you're keeping track. We got A, B, or we have everything but B, really. So we have A, B's gone, C, D, E, F, G, right? So we're gonna have a double sharp family here. And B is gonna be the only one that belongs to that because we're out of notes now, because we'll just end up back at C if we're going alphabetical. So B, it turns out, is kind of a weird one. If we just do the snowman shape, we get a 2 and a 2. That's actually B diminished. And if you've worked through the chord family stuff, where we're just kind of running them through this way, you might already know that B would be like our 7th chord in this case, or our 7th chord, and it's gonna be diminished. So what we have to do is sharp D and F. So we get B, D sharp, F sharp to make this a major chord. If we check our math, this makes everything work, because B has to be root note, so I'm kind of working up from there. So I'm gonna skip 3, then I get there. So I'm skipping 3 in between these 2 notes. Then I gotta skip 2, then I end up there. I'm skipping those 2 there. So B major's in the double sharp family. However you want to remember that, I always just say B is the freak, B is the needy one, whatever. It's just like the one dude or the one, chord out of here that we gotta treat a little different. So that is the basics of golden triads. So I already talked about maybe how to turn these into minor chords and stuff, but we're gonna dive a little deeper into that next video. So for now, if you're studying this, what you should do is really try to remember these 7 chords. Just commit these to memory. Just be able to pull them off without a problem on your keyboard or whatever instrument you're using. These videos are pretty much geared for keyboard, but if you're a guitarist, sure, you can work some of these concepts too. This is general music theory, so it's true for every instrument. It just makes a little more sense on piano. So be able to snap to G major, or sorry, I can't talk. C major, move it to F, you got an F major, then G major. All right, C, F, G, cool, friendly guys, right? Then we have D, E, and A that all need a sharp in the middle. Okay, there's D, E, A, D, E, A. The 3rd sharp for all those. Then we get B left over. Okay, so for this video, memorize those. And then next video, again, we'll talk about how to turn these into some different chords and how to get the most out of this and why it's so valuable to learn. So sorry if I was rambling a little bit, but hopefully you understand golden triads a little better. Then of course in lessons we can go over this a little more. All right, on to the next video.